bad boys move in silence.
Yes.
When you find an edge, shut up about it. Talking invites competition. Competition destroys profits.
So I grew up listening to hip hop. And the interesting thing about my obsession with like maxims and memorable things, like I think a lot of that came from, it's not like I read poetry when I was younger. I listened to hip hop, and like they're very poetic, and they have lines in there that you just remember.
Yep.
That's from Biggie Smalls, Bad Boys Move in Silence. And it's funny because I'm reading this obscure biography of Rockefeller, and it really clicked because everybody's read, there's one canonical biography of Rockefeller called Titan. It's like 800 pages. It's great. That's fine. I've read it like 2 times. Rockefeller's the man, right? But I went through the biography or the bibliography, and I discovered books were made out of books. And so I found this obscure biography published in like 1970. And now you try to get the book, and it's like $4,000 because all these books are out of print. And it's in there, and it's 250 pages, right? There's a longer thing here where I think it's slothful not to compress your thoughts. That's like Churchill would say stuff like that.
What was that thing about, sorry, I wrote you such a long letter. If I'd only had more time, I could have written you a shorter one.
I think it's disrespectful to people to not, like, think about if you want a high value audience and you're saying, hey, I can tell a story in an hour and a half, or I could tell a story in 45 minutes, but I took an hour and a half. I just stole 45 minutes of your life that you're not getting back, times that by however many people, like, I spent an entire day, me and you've talked about this privately. One of the big breakthroughs I had is like spending an entire day before I sit down to record, just literally going through all my notes and highlights and just cutting. I never add. It's like, nope, ruthlessly cut. Try to respect the people's time. But anyways, I think authors should do that. I like Titan. Do I need to know what the furniture's like in his grandfather's house? No, I do not. I want to know how he built maybe the greatest business has ever existed. And so this book is 250 pages of how he built Standard Oil. It's called John D., the Founding Fathers of the Rockefellers. I know friends that have literally bought the book because they heard the episode, and they spent $2,000 because it's like, this is the guy. Like, there's an idea worth billions in a $2,000 history book. And so in that book, it's all secrecy covered everything. In his, when I think of Bad Boys Move in Silence, I think of Rockefeller. It's in all kinds of other entrepreneurs, but essentially he's saying, hey, you don't understand how lucrative this is, and I'm not going to educate my competition. Because if you go and say, hey, look how much money I'm making, what are humans going to do? They're all mimetic. They're going to be like, oh, I'm going to try to do exactly what Chris does. And so I'm going to do, and it's, you invite competition, and there goes your profits. And so not only he would like do deals, and he'd say, hey, I'm going to buy your refinery. You can't tell your wife how much I bought it and who bought it. He would have this thing called, there would be secret ownership. So people hated Rockefeller because he was dominating this area in Cleveland. And so there's this thing called Cleveland Massacre where he essentially in like a day or a few days rounds up like 22 of his top 25 competitors. Like, and then from there on at 25 years old, 28 years old, he's real young. He's the dominant player. And so then he also has a secret alliance where they put him at the head of the the Kerosene Refineries Association, something like that. Essentially just like a trade group. And he goes around, he meets with all the other people in his business, and they're trying to collude to keep prices like at a profitable level. And so he gets to see their books. And now as a result of this secret alliance, he knows, oh, just how we know each other. It's like, I knew Chris was a legit player. I need to spend more time with him because he's another me, right? And then he goes, oh, that's a good competitor. Maybe I need to buy him. This guy, I don't have to worry about this guy. This guy's not serious. I see his books. And so what he would do is some of those people would say, Rockefeller, you're too powerful. I'm not selling to you. And so they go and they sell to a company, not knowing that Rockefeller secretly owns that company. So if you really want to internalize Bad Boys Move in Silence, Rockefeller's the prototype. But there's another great thing. In Steve Jobs' lost years, he dumps $50 million of his own money. And at the time, he only had $70 million. So he dumps almost all, the majority of his wealth into Pixar. And literally, they can't make payroll. They don't have a product. He's just writing checks to cover the payroll. And they pivot from trying to sell hardware, which is how Pixar started, to what the team really wanted to do and what they were passionate about. Was like, we want to make the world's first computer animated movies. And so Steve's like, okay, we need to study, like, is animation profitable? And he has a great line in that book. He's like, it's not like you can go to the library and check out a book that says the business model for animation, because there's only one company that's ever done it successfully. That's Disney. And they don't want anybody to know how lucrative it was. So he winds up building relationships around the world. See how all these things tie together with people in Disney. And he finds out, holy shit, they can literally, like, they take Snow White. What he discovers is Snow White came out like 60 years before. And then you have the new invention of VHS, and you have the new invention of DVDs, in the 90s. And they take something they haven't put a dollar into in 60 years that our kids are still going to watch. They put it on the new technology of the day, VHS, DVD, $250 billion, or excuse me, not $250 billion, 250 million drops to their bottom line, all profit. And that's one movie. And so that's when you realize, oh, the reason they shut up about it because they don't want people to know how lucrative it is. And you see this over and over again. A friend of mine is doing, let me see if I can put this sensitively. He is buying a bunch of other companies. So he's rolling up a bunch of other companies, okay? And he's doing it so successfully, he runs a publicly traded company, that he caught the attention of somebody else that has been doing a similar strategy in a different domain for the last like 3 decades. And he goes, they share a board member. And so he meets with them. And this older, wiser guy tells my friend, he goes, hey, what you're doing is working. He goes, now shut up about it. Stop doing interviews. Stop talking about your strategy. He goes, because the amount of competitors I created for myself because I didn't hide what I was doing successfully. And so people saw how this guy became, the guy that's giving him the advice became a multi-billionaire. Anyways, like, this guy's worth $3 billion, whatever numbers. How do you do that? Oh, this is what he does. Let me copy him. He's like, now I just created all these clones of me. And now I have made it more difficult to do what I wanted to do anyways. So bad boys move in silence. It's something that appears over and over and over again.